Here we are, riffing while black again. Have we stopped being black?
No, and we haven't stopped riffing either.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'm happy that we black and
I don't
riffing.
think it
So
comes off. It doesn't come off.
it doesn't.
No, no, it doesn't. No.
Well, good. I'm trying to keep this. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep this.
I like it. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Well,
How you
hey,
doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's been an interesting week to say the least. I imagine it has been for you as well. Oh, the one good thing is that the government shutdown is over.
For now.
For now, I think we'll revisit this topic again in January, at last I heard. But I'm happy there's 42 million people are going to get their food assistance back. I think we
Yeah.
chat about how 70% of these people are elderly and children.
Yep. And the military will get paid again, and all the employees, I hope they get their back pay.
They're supposed to. I read that they're supposed to get all that. All that was kind of resolved and nonsense. So,
Okay.
but we do have a good series of topics to discuss today, and I'm not going to forget to do our grounding card after, like I did last week. So I am
Wait,
ready
let me
to.
ask you a question. What's your shirt say? What's it say? I can't read it.
Oh,
What's it say?
representation matters.
Okay. Nice
It's a
shirt.
local nonprofit called the New Philanthropist here in Austin. So, but
Okay.
yeah, representation matters. Hey.
It does.
But we got some good topics. One, as we've said, we're going to cover sexual health topic every week, and this one
Yeah.
is why people still struggle to use protection. That's a good
Yes.
that's a good one because there's some struggling out there going on.
There is some
Uh,
struggling. Yes.
then we got getting ready for the holidays. Thanksgiving is just around the corner.
Uh-huh.
I know some folks from different faith traditions are getting ready. There's, of course, there's the Christmas and New Year. But I think just having some conversation about how we might want to prepare for those conversations, those
Yeah. Because
interactions.
therapies are real busy during that time of year. We're busy for a couple of reasons. One, because family stuff blows up. And two, it's right before people's deductibles are due. So,
This is true. And then we got 1 in 4 households are living paycheck to paycheck. I think it's going to be important to have that
yep.
conversation based on what we've been dealing with recently. And
Yep.
then I think we touched on this before, but I think going into a little bit more would be great. Chatbots for therapy.
Chatbots for
People are
therapy.
using those, particularly young folks are going that because it costs less. And then we have a side eye. We have somebody, name is Ross Calvin. He's a billionaire, again, who has this great idea of spending $450 million to build a American Colossus, which is bigger than the Statue of Liberty. But we can get into that later on. So
Okay.
our grounding card for today for Jembe is this: feelings that I often develop when talking about diversity, equity, inclusion are blank and blank. Feelings that I develop often when talking about diversity, equity, inclusion are blank and blank. You want to go first?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so you and I, in part, had, I don't know if we still do, but have made our living by talking about these issues, right? And so whenever I talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, I feel that it is super important. And I want to make sure that I bring everybody into the conversation. And so my feelings are like, this is really important to me
Mm-hmm.
personally and professionally, and I want to bring people into the conversation to teach people how to dialogue around these issues.
Feelings I'm having is a bit frustration because every day it seems like there's something, particularly here in Texas, whether it's the stuff in Chicago and LA or here in Texas where you hear the A&M system is going to basically outlaw race and gender ideology, whatever that means. It's really frustrating because I think this has a direct impact on people's lives and the quality of life and their sense of belonging, and it feels like we're going back 100 years in a lot of different
Yeah,
ways.
because we're
I
not
am
allowed to talk
also
about it.
right. Somehow folks are feeling oppressed. Um, and then another part of me feels optimism because I think what this requires is a certain level of creativity that I think sometimes, not that we haven't had to be creative, we're always having to be creative, right? But the forces that we're dealing with are so huge and so like just gigantic. It's forced us to be creative about how we approach this, how we talk about it, how we might pivot in a different direction. Because in the end, this is really about how do we make people feel like they are included, they belong, they can be themselves and be authentic.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah. So which one of these one you want to hit first? Do you want to go straight? You want to go to the holidays, or you want to do sexual health first?
Let's do the holidays.
All right, holidays. I'll be honest. I'm glad we're talking about this, but I know I feel some kind of way. For me, it's hard. It's difficult because now my mom's been gone. I can't remember now. It's 14, 15 years. And she passed away on Christmas Eve. And I'll be honest, I am not big on Christmas. But
Yeah.
usually about 2 days before the holiday, I'm feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
When the kids when we divorced and the kids had to go, between homes, the kids were gone, and so it was just a tough time. And
Yeah.
so the holidays, and so now you want me to interact with people and be
Yeah.
nice.
Hmm. Well,
It's
I think you
difficult.
bring up a good point because, the holidays are supposed to be happy and festive, but they bring up if you've had a grief experience or, you had a parent or a loved one pass away, they're not, right? They can be, especially the first set of holidays, but those anniversary periods are always a painful reminder of who's not at the table. And so,
Mhm.
and I think we sort of expand that not just, Christmas, but Mother's Day and all these other holidays that are really triggering for people.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's not a lot of support for people going through grief. And you say it's been like 15, 16 years. I think we lost a parent at the same time, your mom, my
Mhm.
dad, that long ago. And it's always
Mhm.
a reminder. And I don't think we talk about it enough. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and so you have this context, right, of these anniversaries and the challenges, and then there's the things that I think many of us worry about too. Is like, okay, we all got that uncle, cousin, father, somebody who holds on to some not very savory ideas. I remember the first time I brought my ex-wife when we weren't even married, we were just dating. I just liked her a lot. And I remember my father and her getting to this huge argument about drinking and women and rape. And I'm just like, oh my God,
At Christmas?
what is going on here?
At Christmas?
Yeah, you know what? I think it was the holidays because I was doing
Yeah.
the Chitlin circuit. Go visit dad, go visit mom, and we in the car arguing. And I'm like, of course, I'm having to defend my girl, and I'm like, this is some straight up boo. We're not
Yeah.
supposed to be doing
That's
this.
Well, but I think that one of the things that happens is that people have high expectations for what they expect. Many people want Hallmark holidays. Okay, first of all,
Mhm.
we sort of make the assumption that everybody is Christian and everybody's celebrating Christmas. Wrong assumption. Insensitive, not okay, right? People allowed to celebrate or not celebrate, whatever, right? Two, people have these high expectations, but your family has not changed. So they were who they were, right? They are not changing just because the calendar says the 25th of November or December. And people get their feelings hurt. And so, as I said at the beginning of the podcast, therapists are busy during this time of year. And one of the things that we're working with our clients to do is to adjust their expectations to who people really are and to learn, sometimes you just need to learn to keep your mouth closed. Like, don't feed into it. Just don't say anything. Just be like, right, and move on. Don't sit next to the drunk uncle. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because
What's
drunk Uncle Fred is going to say something out of pocket. So don't sit next to Uncle Fred. Go sit by Auntie May. Just don't leave Fred alone. That's what you got to do. You got to leave him alone.
what's that sister's name? She's kind of tall, kind of out the box. She was on SNL, and she does a whole skit on how to deal with family members. They basically hire her to deal with family members who are difficult, and she'd be like, "Look,
Is that,
if you
oh,
say
Leslie Jones? Leslie Jones?
yes, Lee Jones, yes."
She's
He's
funny.
like,
Yeah, that's right. I forgot
"Say
about that skit.
something. I'll tell them that you."
That's right. Maybe we need to call Leslie and have her come to each of our holidays. But in all seriousness, I think that the holidays is a mixed bag for people.
It is. It is. It's a
Hmm.
mixed bag, and I want to say that, like for me, I've been going to my one of my really good friends' home for the holidays for a number of years, and it's always been for me magical to spend time with me. We've been doing for over a decade now, and there are very positive aspects of the experience. But you're always aware of the dynamics that you're trying to navigate and deal with, and and as we're kind of talking about here, it's not easy. But I think if we adjust our expectations, number one,
Yep.
how we position ourselves around certain kinds of people. It's okay if you're going to avoid certain people because you just don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Find the people that you connect with, if there's anyone you
Yeah.
can. Find those
Yeah.
people who you can just sit down and have that conversation. Or there's always a choice of not going. Go find your
And if
friend.
Yeah, so there's also nothing wrong with sitting home alone, right? If that's what you want to do. And right, if you do go or you feel obligated to go and you're with people who, it's a painful experience, give it a time limit. You
Yeah.
don't have to stay the whole time,
No.
right?
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many clients I have had, right, where fights broke out. Yes, the police were called. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Yes. So, I mean, I think enjoy what you can, take it for what it's worth. It is a day. It is a day.
Okay.
People don't change their personalities for a day. Make sure you take care of yourself, show kindness and put a time limit.
Yeah, and I know some people are saying, I just don't know. And I'm like, you do the best you can because we're all
Yep.
imperfect. We enter these spaces having maybe the wrong expectations, even if you correct them, and even if you're preparing for the worst that may happen. The good thing is you have options, and I think being reminded that we have options, because I think sometimes people feel like they don't have options, like
Yeah.
they're obligated to do these things, and in truth, you don't. You can do other things. You can find the people. I don't know. That's why I'm such a fan of chosen families. You know,
Hmm.
uh, I love my family, but there's some people who might be really difficult to deal with, and sometimes you have to choose otherwise, just for your
Sure.
own sanity and your own
Sure.
peace.
Sure. And let's not forget about people who can't afford the holidays.
This is true. This is
Yep.
true.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's expensive. All of food and presents and expectations. I mean, all of it. It's I, I'm getting tired just thinking about
Uh-huh.
it. So, do you do any travel yourself for the holidays?
No, I've got some family that's local, so we
That's
we
good.
we
That's
hang
good. Good.
out locally, which is nice. Yeah, which is real nice.
Only reason I ask is because some people, another stressor is getting on planes, buses, and cars to go places.
Yeah,
I'm like, even that
because it
adds.
is. It is, right, getting stuck at the airport. Ooh, ooh wee. That's what ooh wee.
I mean, I
Mm-mm-mm.
think that's what people are worried about with this whole government shutdown. They're like,
Sure.
please get them back to
Please
work.
get it straight. Get it straight. Well, good luck to everybody dealing with the holidays. Make sure you get the support that you need.
Yeah, yeah, and make some choices that are best for you and your family.
Sure.
So you want to get on the sexual health topic? Why people struggle with using protection? And we're talking about protection in the sense of protecting yourself from STDs and STIs and
Yes, like,
all that
I'm
business.
talking about condoms, right?
Condoms.
Let's just name it, right? Condoms, right? So here's I don't have the statistic on me, but one of the highest sort of populations where STDs are increasing are baby boomers,
Say
right? And
again.
what's baby boomers. Now, what's interesting is when I used to teach human sexuality to undergraduates, and I would
Wait a minute.
say,
Old folks.
well, look, we not that far, like just I'm saying. But I would ask them, I would say, hey, how old is too old for sex? You know what they would say? 40.
40.
And here's what I want you to do.
Baby
I
girl.
said, right
Hmm.
now you're somewhere between typically 18 to 20. I want you to email me in 20 years and just say yes or no. Like, yes, I'm still having sex or no, because 40 is just not old, right?
I
But yes,
mean,
so baby boomers,
40?
40.
Hmm.
Yep. But when you're 18 or 20, 40 is old to you.
I mean, it's old, but 40? You gonna just stop having
Yes.
sex? Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, because 40 is too old, according to my undergraduates from back in the day, right? But I think one of the things that we're seeing is obviously that is not true by the increased
Thank you,
incidence
Jesus.
of STDs and STIs among the baby boomers. And I think some of it is because people aren't good, and this kind of harkens back to last week's topic, at having conversations about sex and sexual health, right?
Hmm.
And sort
Hmm.
of, people want to wait till things get hot and heavy, but if you do not have your condoms with you, sex might happen without them. And so you really have to be proactive, right? And have conversations about it. And people are really loath to have those conversations. They're uncomfortable. And here's what I question, KP. I question this. How is it that the act itself is less, I don't know, like vulnerable than the conversation? Like you're naked, so you're vulnerable already. Then the conversation itself, wouldn't you rather have the conversation? Or but people skip the conversation and get naked, which can equal STDs. So help me understand.
Yeah, well, the thing that what I hear on the grapevine is usually the same dynamics that were present back in high school and college,
Yeah,
where men are not being responsible. They're putting the burden on the women to bring. So if there is a conversation, the woman's expected to bring up the conversation, and
yeah.
then what the guy spends time doing is doing some long division slash jujitsu to figure out how to avoid having to put the condom on. Because, we hear all the excuses, right? It don't feel the same. I'm allergic. That's
Well,
my
okay.
favorite. I'm allergic.
I mean, in all self disclosure, I am not a man, so I don't know how that might feel. But I guess what I am confused with, does an STD feel better? Does that feel better?
Well, let's
Does
speak of the practical terms.
crustiness and dustiness feel better?
I personally think that would be a problem, but I think for some people,
Yeah,
particularly for men, they think, well, I've had a STI before. I went to the doctor, they took care of it, it was good, you know? And so
I
for
get
them,
you.
the consequences may not seem as severe. I mean, people go straight to things like AIDS and things that you
Yeah,
can't be cured from. But the things that people experience, they don't see the real harm, I think, short term or long term. Even if you have things like HPV, which doesn't go away, it can
yeah.
actually can have negative impact. But for a lot of people, there is no negative impact. They're transmitting it around, but they're not having the negative consequences that people are concerned about.
Well, I guess, but they come eventually. No pun
Yes,
intended,
when you 70.
right? Like, yeah. I mean, but the consequences they do show up. So part of my work as a human sexuality educator is really about showing people how to have those conversations and really exploring with them why those conversations are difficult. But when you use protection, that is self-love more than anything, because you are protecting yourself, you're taking care of yourself. um but it does always make me go, it's okay to get naked, but you'd rather just skip the conversation and go right to nakedness. Somehow the conversation makes you more vulnerable than the act itself.
I mean, let's be clear, having sex is better than the conversation. So, I mean, we're going to compare the two. Yeah, let's just do this. But,
I
okay, we're going to
guess,
talk
but
about it.
but it's still vulnerability. You know
Yes,
what I'm saying? I
yes.
mean,
It's
so them baby
vulnerability,
boomers,
but see,
they kicking it.
with sex, there's pleasure. With the conversation, there's an absence of pleasure. Matter of fact, there's awkwardness potentially. So it's like, ugh. But you're right. They are vulnerable situations. I think
Yeah.
this is the other challenge, and I'll speak from a guy's perspective. What I hear is there isn't a lot of education about the different kinds of condoms that are available, right? And so
Go
you got
to
people going to
Google.
the grocery store, huh?
Go to Google.
Yes, but this is the problem. Some people are just lazy. And so they're used to what they see on television. And so they're going with the name brands. And those things are like freaking shields. They're thick as I don't know what. And there's a whole nother like battery of options available to you. Some of them come from like Japan and other places that can be more comfortable for folks, not just for themselves, but for their
Right.
partner, whoever they're with on that given time. And so I think
Right.
there's a lot of misinformation about what a condom can and can't do for you. There's different
Right.
kinds. There's some people who need to wear a condom so they're not, going too quickly. So, but the point is, you have to be.
Don't do that with your neck again. Don't do that. Don't do that.
And
Don't do that. Don't do that.
so I think the challenge is like there's a place here in Austin. It's called Forbidden Fruit, and it's like
Okay.
this little spot in Austin, and you go in there and you can ask all the questions. They have the toys, they have the
Yeah.
condoms, and I'll be honest, for a lot of people that can be a little intimidating because you go
Yeah.
in and you're like, oh my god, so much, yeah. But I'll be honest, I've gone in there several times because I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. Let me go ask these folks. And like you said, the internet is there.
Yeah.
But again, I think
Yeah.
people are just a little on the lazy side.
Yeah, well, or they're embarrassed or ashamed or those kinds of things.
Yes.
But I'm
Yes.
hoping that people feel more empowered to educate themselves and to protect themselves.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 There's a whole process you should be. Yes. But what you make me think about is how actually helpful having a place like Forbidden Fruit or other place in your community where you can go ask those questions, which seem kind of dumb and silly. You think, oh, I'm X age and I don't know this. Well, when were you supposed to learn it? And if you did learn it, you probably forgot about it. And if you like some people who maybe were in a relationship for a long time, so they didn't worry about protection, now they're back on the dating scene and like, wait a minute, what's even out there now? So I think having a resource is really, really great. And so I would encourage people if they feel comfortable to show up because this is what people think. They're like, people are going to see me going in here. I'm like, yeah, because you're grown. Yes, yes, loose. Yeah, yeah, right. Well, the other thing you remind me of is there's some people. No. Or another thing you remind me of is there's some people who agree, like if they're going to be intimate, they've maybe been tested, blah blah blah. But again, they still had the conversation, right? They just didn't fall into it accidentally. The worst, and I've had a pet peeve around this my entire adult life, is people are having sex when they're intoxicated, when they're not having the best space to actually make these decisions. And then there's all this guilt and shame and regret that they experience after the fact. Even if they knew they were aware of it, they just weren't really on their top of their game. And I'm like, ah, mm, that is a problem. Yeah, you remind me of a client I had. She said, "Yeah, every time I have sex with my husband, I have to drink a lot." I'm like, "Whoa, hold on, slow, slow. Let's talk about that because that's important, right?" I mean, I'll be honest. My initial thought was, "He's not that ugly," so, I was like, what do you do? Anyhow, so cool. Well, let's talk about. I think it was a nice transition to chatbots for therapy. Yes, I've done it. I've seen other people do it. I mean, you'd be surprised. Well, you'd be surprised. I mean, it's where I started using it was to gather information, right? To say, hey, what's the data on the top 10 frustrations around X Y Z topic, right? And so what you're doing is building kind of a model for this tool to gather information about things that might be of interest to you. And then I see, and then I moved gradually from that to saying, based on this situation, what are some recommendations about how to have a conversation, or how would I word this differently? And these are kinds of things that come up in therapy. I think the good thing is that it can be, I think, a good tool in that sense. I think the challenge is some of these chatbots are not built for the kind and care that I think we as people need. There's a lot of danger that's involved because of how some of these AI tools have been formulated to be actually pretty harmful. And we've seen the evidence, particularly amongst young people. We've seen people who have been encouraged to hurt themselves and harm themselves. But Mhm. Yeah. Yes. No, and to be honest, there's evidence already of people who treat it like it's what's the word, sentient being of sorts, that it's like a person, and they build paranoia because they think someone's going to show up who represents that AI technology that's going to come after them, and so there's some real hazards, even if it's just in our head. I mean, this is in many ways just what we're experiencing by ourselves in isolation with technology. There's no other person involved here. But it's so real for them. They're feeling real deep sense of terror and paranoia, and having real problems. I think this is the challenge. And the advice I've given to people when they're using these tools is that, just like the calculator, the telephone, and other technology, there were tools that help us accelerate things that we couldn't do as quickly on our own. So I'm not going to travel 3,000 miles to go tell somebody something. I'm going to call them, and we're going to have a conversation, but I'm going to know the limitations of that tool. But there's also safeguards, right? Just like the telephone, they were charging us out the ass back in the day to make a long distance phone call. Now it's cheap, right? But there's still safeguards in place, so I'm not spending all my money, but at the same time, I'm making somewhat of an investment, but there's some safeguards involved. And I think the problem is we just don't have the safeguards in place, and I think that's the fundamental challenge that we're experiencing. Hmm. Right. I mean, I always think to myself, if you can use a tool to help you, let's say, write an email, to maybe do it quicker than you would have written it yourself. I think that's fine. The problem is you have people having these tools write the email, and then they don't look it over, right? They don't, because they tell you all the time at the bottom of the screen, information may be inaccurate, double check. And so again, whatever the reason, fill in the blank, the reason. But again, I think it's the misuse, or not being a professional use of these kinds of tools to help us do the jobs. Because the truth of the matter is, the reason why I think people are going this direction is because they're overwhelmed with the volume of work that they need to do, the amount of research that they have to maybe conduct. And so here's a tool that can do the search for you, to do the wording of the letter, give you feedback about content that you maybe developed. It reduces the time. The problem is that we just kind of, again, because maybe we're overwhelmed, I don't know, we just kind of say, here, take care of it for me. And like, no, 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 no. No. And I think that's the problem. Yeah. Yeah, it has something to do with the amount of energy that is being used, and so then they have to use water to cool the systems. I mean, there's a whole ecosystem that's in place. As a matter of fact, I think there's one data system when they put it in this really small town was using more than the entire city itself in comparison. So there's the power that's being used by the town, and then there's power that's used by the data center. Found out the data center was using more resources, not just energy, but water and other things, than the town. And so they were frustrated because the six towns like, we don't have the means to create the infrastructure necessary to hold this data center. And you're seeing that story play out across the country. And so it's a huge issue. And some people have taken a position saying, I'm not going to use these things because they're not good for the environment. So that's another issue that's on top of all this. I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm less concerned about that and more of, are they using it responsibly? Um, because I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, to be honest. Because I feel like we as a society get at this point where we have new technology introduced. It's kind of like the telephone. I remember watching the Waltons once upon a time, and like, I can't believe this phone is ringing during dinner time. They're getting all huffy. Oh, they call me during dinner time. I mean, good night, John Boy. We was youngsters. Youngsters. Yes, I got the card for us. See, I'm prepared today, ma'am. Our card, our engagement card is, I first noticed unequal pay when blank. I first noticed unequal pay when blank. You want to go first? I got one for you. the, the first, but the first one. Do you remember the first one? Well, I can tell you this. For me, the first was when my mom would talk about feeling like she was being underpaid as a woman, right? But the most obvious personal experience I had with that was with I had taken my first real job. I'm not talking about Whataburger and stuff I did back in the day. I'm talking about a job. I was a social worker in the Bronx, and we went to go uh, cash our checks or whatever, and we would do it with our coworkers. And I just not I hate to admit this, but I happened to see my coworker, who's a woman, who had actually been there much longer than me, more experience. Actually, already had her master's degree. I was getting mine. I looked at her paycheck, and her paycheck was significantly less than mine. And I'll be honest, I felt like this when I was clutching my pearls at the time. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. And I was getting paid so much more. And don't get me wrong, I was very glad to be making the money at this. And it wasn't that much, let's be clear, but it was so wrong. And it took me some time to figure out what to do or what to say to my friend, my colleague, because I cared. And she was a good friend and good, great at what she did. She gave me a lot of guidance, and we had to have a conversation about that because I didn't want to impact my situation, but at the same time, it was wrong. And so, thank you. Yeah. Mm-mm. Oh, she took care of it. I mentioned it to her, and she took care of it, and it kind of. I think they fixed it somehow or another. Now, did I find out whether they paid her as much as I should have been paid or not? We didn't go like look at each other's paychecks, but my hope is that something was resolved in that situation. My understanding is it was, but these nonprofits they be getting away with murder sometimes. So, well, we got one side eye, and if you have others, feel free to bring them up. But mine is about this. And the thing is, when I first looked it up, I was hoping it wasn't what it looked like, but it was. And it's basically a billionaire cryptocurrency entrepreneur who's conservative, of course, who wants to build this American Colossus, which is this huge. It's supposed to be like a reminder of a previous statue that was built. I forget if it was in Greece or something like that, but somehow this is supposed to represent the best of who we are as our, and specifically about the what's the phrase, the clandestine destiny. No, that's not the phrase. Manifest destiny. Yes, man, it's supposed to represent the manifest destiny of our country, because right now, the idea of Canada becoming part of the United States and Greenland, this is part of that manifest destiny that we were taught back in the day, this idea that we take over the entire continent and represent our country. Well, I mean, you have to be a real American, and the Christians are the ones who started this country and gave everything that and people of color, they had no contribution to this culture. So, um, yeah, someone said that. Well, okay, okay. It gets two side eyes, or maybe zero point 0.5 side eye for each of these. The first one is just wanting to do it. The second is it costs $400 million, $450 million to build apparently, but they've only raised $5. I mean, they're billionaires, but you know, I'm not a billionaire, but the idea that I would give up $450 million to build a statue, I might be against, because first of all, how am I gonna make that money back? Where's the profit margins? We gonna get it from tourists? $5. Yeah, you got the $5. So yeah, he gets a side eye on his ridiculous idea. But these billionaires get together and they get an idea in their mind, and next thing you know, they've raised a few $1 million for some ridiculous project. So um, $5. All right. I got our last card for today. This is our celebration card. And this one says, "Today I felt discomfort when blank. Today I felt discomfort when blank." Wow, wow, wow. So basically, you get to tell your kids, look, you did this to me. You made the choice, ma'am. Why you gotta go there? I, I shared my uterus. I'm not going to share my food. No, no. It's, Is that going to be a new amendment on the Constitution? I will not share my uterus because I mean, I shared my uterus, but not my food. Well, ma'am, so last 2 weekends, I think I've told you I enjoy dancing. And so 2 weekends in a row, I went dancing. When I go dancing, I don't go half dancing, I go all the way dancing. So we're talking about 3, 4 hours of just out there doing it. Boom, boom, boom. And then this past weekend, I decided, oh, let me go on some hikes too. So I went on these long hikes for 2, 3 days in a row. And then I went to a what they call it, East Austin tour, basically it's an art tour. So I did that for a while, and I noticed my knees talking to me. It said, "Baby, baby, please, baby, please, stop walking on these knees." So I felt discomfort in my knees. I had to take a little bit of break. Put some. I didn't put no ice. Hey, baby, please, my knees. Hey, I look at my friends who are our age, who are, or maybe even a little younger than us, who have actually far more going on. So I think I'm doing pretty damn good. I got a little pain in my shoulder here and there, but I mean, it's like when I go to the dentist is like, well, you got more teeth at people your age than most people. I'm like, what? I- So I mean, yeah, I mean, I'll take the few hairs I have left and the teeth that I have and the knees I got. So it's all good. Wait, well, take it to the bank. Well, Dr. Helm, Kathy, is so good to see you. Thank you so much. This is Riffing While Black, Dr. Helm and Dr. Prince doing our thing. We'll see you all next week. All right. Bye bye.